Orbs of power. Love them or hate them. Wait a minute. Who hates orbs? What did the orbs do to upset you? Orbs are all over the place in Destiny. First with the change from wells to orbs in Lightfall, then in a recent season, the addition of Attrition orbs. Try saying that 12 times fast. Addition of Attrition. Addition of Attrition. Addition of Attrition. In Lightfall, the shift from wells to orbs at the time was a nerf. Wells used to offer a slew of effects, from healing to gun damage to simply creating more wells, and of course the ability energy. But in the time since their loss, orbs have taken the reins and now offer far more than what wells ever used to achieve. But building around orbs is a tricky business, with lots of numbers and possible mod combinations. There's a right and wrong way to build out orbs. We'll get to that, but first, let's figure out how exactly to make the orbs in the first place. Orb creation is a simple process, but there's a lot of ways to do so. The first and most straightforward will be the siphon mods on your helmet. These drop an orb from weapon multi-kills. There's a small cooldown, just a few seconds really, then you can make another orb. These siphons are very good mods and are really the workhorses when it comes to creating orbs. On the gloves, we have heavy-handed and firepower. Now, what I'm going to say may upset you, so be prepared. In 90% of cases, I wholeheartedly believe these two mods kinda just suck. There is a time and place for them, and they can be quite good, but a single mod will net you one orb every 10 seconds. 2 mods takes that down to 5 seconds, then 3 mods gets you down to 1 second cooldown. The problem here is that these mods cost a whopping 3 armor slots each, meaning that if you want to consistently make orbs with either your grenade or melee, you'll need 9 energy points on your gloves, which doesn't leave a lot of room for stats. Again, sometimes it's a solid play to really dig into these mods, but most of the time a siphon can do the same job for less energy. Reaper on the class item has a similar problem, although with it being on the class item makes it a little better. It still has a 10-second timer with only 1 mod, but honestly, Reaper is a solid way to squeeze out an extra orb every once in a while, and it doesn't usually come at the cost of other, better mods. While we're on the class item, Powerful Attraction is nearly a must-use mod. Using your class ability will scoop up all the orbs around you in a radius, which is a huge deal. I never walk around without this mod on, and I recommend you do the same. A second one will increase the radius as well if you're trying to collect orbs across zip codes. But wait, there are also some subclass fragments that can create orbs. Let's go through those very quickly. On Void, Echo of Harvest will net you an orb when you take down a weakened opponent. Stasis with Whisper of Bonds will create an orb whenever you take down a frozen opponent. Arc with Spark of Amplitude will give you a siphon-like effect where multi-kills while amplified will drop an orb. Strand has Thread of Wisdom, giving an orb on suspended takedowns. Solar has Ember of Wonder, where Ignition multi-kills will drop an orb. And finally, Prismatic has Facet of Generosity, which gives orbs from takedowns while you're transcendent. Okay, so those are your sources, but not all are equal. The subclass fragment orbs, heavy-handed, firepower, and Reaper, put all those in the same category. Those are your cherry on top. You won't really be able to rely on these, as sometimes things just don't go your way. These are all really great options to add to your orb creation, but they won't be the main source of them. No, the main source comes from your siphons and Attrition orbs. Attrition orbs has been a perk for a little bit now, and when it first came out, I think we all collectively were like, yeah, that's cool, I guess. But as with any new perk, it was just waiting for the right weapons, and boy do we have the right weapons now. There's a long list of Attrition orb weapons, but some are definitely better than others. Of course, the first thing you'll want to look for are weapons that possess Attrition orbs in the first column. Most damage perks in Destiny reside within the second column, which means on some of these weapons, you'll have to make a choice between Attrition orbs or a damage perk. 9 times out of 10, the damage perk will win over Attrition Orbs. So what exactly is this perk? Well, Attrition Orbs causes an orb of power to be made after dealing repeated damage with a weapon. Most weapons take about 2/3 of your magazine hit in order to create an orb. This can be against multiple enemies though. Landing hits into a crowd will still net you an orb. 2/3 of your magazine might sound like a lot, and in some cases it is. In others though, it's a different story. More specifically, an origin story? So let's take one of the old reliables you may have heard me gush about before. This is the Attrition Orb Kinetic Tremor origin story. It's your discount multi-mock, which isn't a bad thing. A 31 round magazine at 450 RPM is solid. It's a mid-line weapon for this perk combination. It makes orbs relatively quickly, but not amazingly so. Kinetic Tremors does help out a bit, but you're still looking at around 2/3 of the magazine to actually create that orb. So the two major things to look out for with Attrition Orbs is the magazine size and the rate of fire. That is why Multi-Mock is so good. You've got a modest magazine at around 38 rounds, but then you slap on a 900 round per minute fire rate and you're flying through magazines, subsequently making a ton of orbs in the process. Noxious Vetiver, the new ARC SMG from the season, also has Attrition Orbs in the first column, which you can combine with Jolting Feedback for a ton of orbs and a ton of jolt. Very good weapon. A 26 round magazine at 600 rounds per minute. Another weapon from the current season, this one being the Void Sidearm Insurmountable. I myself have found this to be a really solid Attrition Orbs weapon, with its low base magazine of only 12 and its modest rate of fire of 260 rounds per minute. It's another really good option. But those are more generalistic. How about some fun niche options that fit a role better than they fit the meta? Parabellum is a solar SMG that isn't the mini tool. I know, it's hard to imagine that those still exist. This one's got heal clip with Attrition Orbs. This was my support weapon before we got the support rifle, and it's still pretty good now for solo healing and orb creation. But speaking of the support rifle, this thing also has Attrition Orbs, which makes it a killer support weapon when you pair it with Physic. Restoration and orbs on demand. Gotta love it. But by far my most niche weapon for orb creation is Subjunctive, with both Attrition Orbs and Shoot to Loot. Now this is another really great orb maker since, like Multi-Mock, it has a 900 round per minute fire rate and a 36-ish round magazine. This thing prints orbs like they're going out of style. Then with Shoot to Loot you can pick up those orbs from afar with the same weapon. This is the ultimate utility weapon, a perfect pairing for a good special weapon, since you can make and pick up orbs with Subjunctive, then use those orbs and armor charge for more special ammo. Again, very niche, but if you find value here, there's really nothing like it. Well, I guess technically there is, but this one is craftable. Riding that same Shoot to Loot idea, let's talk about hands down the best Attrition Orbs weapon and the loadout that crushes everything. In the newest dungeon, Vesper's Host, there's a new area denial grenade launcher. You've all heard of it and seen it already, I'm sure. This thing is a handheld orb factory and shoots out more orbs than Destiny has ever had in the last 10 years that this franchise has been alive. And that's not an exaggeration. So this little flamethrower grenade launcher makes a ton of orbs, which can really be seen when you toss the flames into a group. But even against a single enemy, this thing violently shoots out orbs. So what do you do with all those orbs? Well, first and foremost, with the Velocity Baton here, you use Kvostov. Seriously, get an Attrition Orbs Baton and Kvostov together, use it, then come back and tell me, without lying, tell me that it was awful. You can't. It's impossible. Okay, so we've talked enough about all the different ways to make orbs and Kvostov, but what do you actually do with the orbs? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Let's get a little nerdy, shall we? So, orbs. We all know them as super energy, but are they really? No, not really. Yeah, they technically give you super energy, but the orbs from siphons, subclass fragments, mods, and attrition orbs are all small orbs. Unlike the orbs your friends make with their supers, which crank your super bar, the little orbs we'll be making just gives you a little... But really quickly, side note, you actually can get some decent super gains on the Hunter by using the Star Eater Scales exotic. Not the class item version, the actual exotic. Star Eater buffs up super gains from orbs, making these tiny orbs much better at boosting up that super bar. But if you're not on a Hunter or simply don't want to use Star Eater, what else is there to do with orbs? Well, of course, you'll know that orbs equal armor charge, which itself means weapon surges, or special finisher, or ability kickstarts. All those armor charge things work with the orbs you'll be picking up. The most impressive one, especially if you're using attrition orbs, is the surges. By simply dealing damage with an attrition orb weapon, you're effectively giving yourself more damage with that weapon through the armor charges and surges. Armor charge builds are all awesome, but maybe you're like me and don't rely on armor charge too much. I mean, I mostly run around with special finisher on all the time, yet I'm spamming abilities and healing like crazy. How? To answer that, I gotta give up the Destiny build crafting secrets, so listen close. So, you have your chosen setup of orb creation, but now you need those orbs to feed something. Let's say you have a special finisher on. I recommend having something related to armor charge on, because if you don't, you can pick up orbs while your super is full, which means you can't get any orb pickup effects while your super is full. You'll be very disappointed if you need that healing orb and your super being full is what gets you killed. It's happened to me many times and I do not recommend it. So put something on that lets you get armor charge. The orb stuff are all on the boots, so let's head to the boots. So first things first, recuperation. This is by far the best mod in the game. If you only have one mod on your whole armor set, have it be this one. Recuperation has saved me so many times, I couldn't even count if I tried. But hey, what's this? Better Already kicks off your health regen when you pick up an orb. Yes, that would be better, but you'll find that the health regen is only helpful if you don't immediately get shot after it starts, which with the enemy density these days is bound to happen. It is ultimately personal preference between these two, but recoup is way better. And that's not my personal preference, that's just the law. But okay, beyond healing, what else can you do? Well, there's a whole slew of ability-related orb pickup mods. There's grenade energy, melee, class ability, lowest ability, and all abilities. If you, for instance, want to use your grenade as often as possible, you may consider putting 3 grenade orbs on. If we look on Item Manager, you can see the actual percentage numbers for how much energy each mod gives. I don't know if they're 100% accurate, but after playing with them extensively, I can tell you it's close enough. So, Mr. Grenade Man, you've got 3 innervation mods on, scoring you a whopping 15% grenade energy per orb. We've already learned how to make a ton of orbs, so that should feel pretty nice to use. But, look here. Absolution, where orb pickup gives you some of all 3 abilities, gives 5%. Huh. So how about 1 grenade and 1 of all 3? That's, again, 15%, just like 3 grenade mods, but now you're also getting some melee and some class ability. But wait, we have another slot here. How about Restoration, which gives you 10% ability energy to your lowest charged ability? With all 3 of these on, let's say you have all of your abilities, but then you throw a grenade. Make an orb, pick it up, and look at that, you've got a massive chunk of your grenade back. And remember, if we're using attrition orbs, that orb didn't even require a kill. You can do this with any neutral game ability. You want melees? Swap out grenade for melee energy and now you've got a melee build. Even if your preferred ability isn't the lowest charge and isn't receiving the extra charge from restoration, you're still getting 15% of your main ability back, on top of 5% towards your other abilities and another 10% for whatever your lowest is. Off 1 orb! And all this before you consider what these subclasses can get up to with orbs. On Strand, you can get a few seconds of woven mail, which, by the way, if you have 10 seconds of woven mail, say from a Titan Tangle, then you pick up an orb, which would normally give you 5 seconds, it now gives you 10. So that fragment is much better for woven mail builds specifically. I told you this would get nerdy. But then, look at Prismatic. Oh man. Prismatic can do all sorts of stuff. Depending on your super, you could get amplified, gain a stack of restoration, frost armor, woven mail, or even avoid overshield. I gotta say though, that restoration on orb pickup should not be overlooked. Same with the void overshield. Finally, let's take a pit stop on void. Echo of Starvation, picking up a void breach or orb of power grants devour. Now, I don't need to tell you that this is good. We all know how good devour is. Even if you're not on a warlock, it's crazy good. Now you're getting devour on each of those orbs you're making. But recall back to our boot mods, how I said that healing on orb pickup was vital? Well, maybe I exaggerated a little bit. Echo of Starvation not only gives you devour, but this fragment also gives you the healing from devour whenever you pick up an orb, which also means that recuperation isn't required on your boots, allowing you to double down on the ability gains we just talked about, or even a few surges. You'll be amazed at how strong you'll feel with all these orbs giving you all these effects. There are times where you can simply stand face to face with a boss because you're making orbs with attrition orbs and those orbs are healing you and giving you all your abilities back. I guess my point with this video was to hopefully shed some light on how big of a deal orbs can be in your builds. Healing, ability energy, special ammo generation, weapon damage, kickstarts, it's all possible with orbs, and making a ton of orbs leads to a ton of gains everywhere else in the game. And everything we've done here, apart from the Star Eater and Kvastov sections, has all been done without any exotics. Attrition orbs, siphons, and subclass fragments. Put all three of those together and you'll make almost as many orbs as enemies you've defeated. I hope this video gave you some inspiration for a build, or a weapon to chase, or anything. If you've got some grand ideas for a build, a weapon, or just something fun, let us all know down in the comments. Until next time.